Hello and welcome everyone to the TopCyberPro podcast. I'm Jim West, founder and CEO of TopCyberPro.com, and I'm here with a wonderful guest today. We have Valentina Costa. I'm going to brutalize your name.
Gazcon?
Gazcon?
Yes,
Oh, I
that's
got it
correct.
right. So Valentina works and operates in Argentina, and so we usually try to reach out to experts around industry as well as around the world. And so we're really excited to have Valentina today, and we got a super interesting topic to talk about, and it's really around one of her works that she's authored. It's called Practical Threat Intelligence and Data-Driven Threat Hunting. And so just to jump right into the pool, Valentina, could you give us like some definitions or simple explanations of, what is threat intelligence? What is, threat hunting? And then why does data matter in relation to those? So let's hit the ground running.
So what is threat intelligence is a complicated question. Like there's still a lot of discussion on the definition of intelligence itself, but let's try to put it simple. Essentially, you are gonna be processing data in order to transform into information that could be used in order to make a decision and take or not some action over it. So that is essentially the craft of intelligence, right? It has to be, and then we can talk about how and when it has to be provided in order to be effective and useful. But essentially, it's transforming data into information um, to generate some or to support a decision.
Okay. And then the threat hunting aspect, because, threat intelligence, okay, you're getting information so you can decide what to do in a situation. But what's threat hunting? Because when we think of
So
hunting, we think of a hunter with a rifle or a bow and arrow going after
I know,
prey.
yeah.
But yeah, what is that like in cyber?
So in cyber, it's more like to navigate through logs and data, trying to identify signs of malicious behavior before that malicious behavior can generate some damaging impact on our organization.
Hmm. Okay.
So it's kind of getting ahead of the threats.
Getting ahead of those. So taking a more proactive approach instead of
Yeah,
just responding all the time. So,
exactly. Yes.
okay. And then how does data, you mentioned your book title, Data-Driven Threat Hunting. How does data help with the hunt, if you will?
Well, it's a really good question. So, you need data for everything, right? It's like the basis of everything. Um, but I would say that you when you provide intelligent information that it's articulated, that you have more specific behavior patterns, or maybe even IOCs and other things, you can use all that to support your hunting, right? So it's not just navigating through the logs in a vacuum, but supporting yourselves on some already processed data that comes from threat intelligence to do it more effectively.
Okay. So when you authored this book, what was the inspiration or the motivation to make this book?
The inspiration and motivation to learn this book is I was asked to write something about hunting with machine learning. And I said, it's not my thing. At that moment in time, I wasn't like super interested into the topic. And I thought, and I think that's the reason why the book also did so well at the time, as there was not enough basic introductive knowledge into threat hunting, supported by threat intelligence in order to write the book they were asking me to, right? So I thought I wouldn't buy this book because I wouldn't be interested in this book as this point in time. I will write this another book that I think it will have a much better audience, and there will be a lot of people interested in it. And the editorial agreed. They trust my judgment. And I think it was a good call because the book has been translated into Polish, Korean, and Chinese so far.
Nice.
And I know there had at least two other languages in which the rights for translation had been sold, but it has not been translated yet, as far as I know.
Okay. Well, that's a
Um,
major achievement to have a book that you've written to be translated in other languages to serve other countries and provide that information to other folks. That's wonderful. Um, we talk a little bit about when you think about threat intelligence, you think about the threat hunting. And so some people think threat hunting is like these bug bounty programs, right? Facebook does it very famously, Google, a lot of different companies have these bug bounty programs. So, is that a feature or a facet of the book or not?
like a handling bug bounty program.
Hmm.
I know there was a team that was trying to build something like that. I'm not sure how successful they had been in it, because if I'm honest, I kind of lost track of the website, and I've been doing other things. But um, I think it's harder to do threat hunting as a bug bounty program. Not impossible, but it's also quite more sensitive because you have to give access to logs that, sometimes they might have private data, and you
Yes.
probably don't want that to be available to anyone, right? So you want to be just a specific employees or trusted number of people that can access. I know, but when it's also deal with, like, but I think it's kind of a bit different because you're going to be digging into logs. It's also logistically can be a little bit more challenging. Um, yeah, I think it's not impossible, but I think it's harder.
Got it. Very complex. You had mentioned to me before the recording that you have a second edition. Do you have any ETA of when the second edition of this work will come out?
Oh, it's been the ETA has been pushed so much so far. I'm not sure how the editorial doesn't want to kill me, or maybe they do and they didn't tell me. So I've been moving and construction and
Life
going
happens.
out live. So it's been pushed. Um, I'm supposed to start right away to finish it up because it's already half of the way there. So I don't have an ETA. I'm hoping it's this year.
Okay. Well, of course, we're going to have a link to your LinkedIn profile below. So if folks want to follow Valentina and wait for her announcement of the second edition. But we'll have a link to the current edition that's out there that's already in multiple languages, which is phenomenal to have a book. That just shows you the importance and the value of this book to be translated in multiple languages. So congratulations on that
Thank
and
you.
having that
Thank you.
done. I want to talk a little bit about the business that you're the CEO and founder of, and it's called V1 Labs. So could you tell us a little bit about why V1 Labs, what's their mission, and what are some of the things that they do that your company does?
So, why was just I grew tired of working for other people. I really very much like my free time, and I organize my free time the way I want to do it, and I also want to be able to choose the projects I work in or in with whom, which is some of the liberty that running V1 has been given me. It's been also challenging. I'm not gonna
Hmm.
lie about it. My passion or the reason why I wanted to do it is because I wanted to do more research onto Latin American APTs and what's going on in Latin America, because it's not as advertised, and APTs are targeting the United States, Europe, and other richer regions.
Yeah.
The challenge is it's easier to sell threat intelligence um, on those more developed countries than in countries where they are still struggling with basic security.
Yes.
And most of the clients I've been working with in the end had been like, okay, let's perform a small audit on you to see where you stand, because there's no way you can implement threat intelligence. That sort of thing has been challenging, which has set back a little bit my investigation on it. But I did actually last second party, which is our biggest cybersecurity conference here in Argentina, and probably one of the biggest in Latin America, at least in terms of people that comes and speaks technically. Um, I actually presented about an APT I found that was targeting all Latin American countries and has been doing it so for at least 10 years.
Wow.
Um, and I just found it by just my client got a phishing email and I did some jumping and it's been interesting. I'm still like working on that research because I found a lot of activity. So but I haven't published anything yet. It's like I've been taking it slow also because I moved out to the countryside, started to build my own house. So it's been a couple of interesting and very busy few years.
Well, it's really intriguing that, you discovered an APT and been able to investigate it, doing the work of threat hunting, right? You saw the indicators of compromise and you followed down to the root causes, et cetera. So I love that you was able to discover something. And you're right, there's different regions of the world that people don't understand that, when we think of cybersecurity, we're always thinking, just like when we think of the world, all these action movies and disaster movies, where they're always set in, it's either New York, number one, or LA or London or Paris. It's one of the most common top five cities in the world. But when you get to countries and areas and regions where they don't have, as many Fortune 500 companies or big budgets as these companies that are always in the news, but yet the dangers, they still face the same dangers, the same APTs, the same hacktivists and nation state attacks and the constant denial of service attacks. They face all the same things because everybody's on the internet. And especially when you get to regions where there's limited bandwidth, there's not a lot of fiber or really robust infrastructure that an attack can really hamstring a lot of businesses in a region really quickly. And that's a huge economic and a socio-economic disadvantage for a region and nations of people that need the internet for education, need the internet for business to operate, etc. So it's definitely you're fighting a good fight on what I would consider the front lines of really where a lot of attention doesn't get addressed. One of the situations that I wanted to bring up, and I don't know how familiar you are with it, but several months ago, it was like I want to say summer of last year. There was a issue where Microsoft was trying to really push their AI services and so forth into incident response, and particularly in Azure. And so what had happened was there's a lot of companies that even though they're a global company, when they decide to test a service or to roll out something, they don't always roll it out in America or in Europe first. Sometimes they'll roll it out in maybe a part of Asia, Africa, or South America. And in this case, it was South America that experienced, I forget how long the outage was, but there was an outage that lasted several hours of a day that disrupted business all across Latin America, all because of an AI system that took a measure where it prevented legitimate traffic from happening across the cloud because from whatever rules or settings, it basically thought something was malicious and shut it down. And so it was almost like a self-inflicted denial of service that Microsoft did. There was not a lot of news stories on this because obviously a company like Microsoft, if it's not impacting the US or Europe or Japan or China, it won't make the top news. But it kind of bubbled up for a moment that said a lot of companies in South America were disrupted. The operations were disrupted, but then no one ever had any more stories about it. No one ever talked about it. Do you recall that last summer, that Azure issue, that outage?
None of my clients were affected by it, so I do remember the event. I did not have an involvement with it. But I would like to mention something since we are talking about particularities of Latin America. And you mentioned a little bit of the socioeconomic differences, right? Um, remember CrowdStrike outage
Yes.
with related with Microsoft too? Well, the government issued no notification saying, no, we were not affected because the software is too expensive, so our companies do not use it, which is partially true, because most of our country was not affected because most of the companies cannot afford CrowdStrike. Then the government was misinformed because there were some companies affected, but they were like a minority. Um, but I think that's a good point to mention. Like we there's also this issue not only being the guinea pigs that I think we are if I may add some, we are also the guinea pigs of some economic political theories. Like if you know a little bit of Argentina's history, we are kind of like a testing ground for some things that there are later implemented somewhere else. And I think it's very much what's happening right now. It happened first here, and then it's happening in the US. So um, besides being guinea pigs, we also have this disparity in which security becomes also like a commodity. Like if you can afford it, and if you can't afford it, um, if you think it in US terms, security can already be expensive. Here is like you really need to have deep pockets in order to afford the US grade or good security renowned solutions. So I think one of the challenges goes more in line with the um, the lack of that capacity to access the things that will make the environment more secure. Because
Mhm.
you need them, like you need an
Yeah.
APR, you need a CM, but you cannot afford it,
Yeah.
right?
You know, there's this
So
thing that a lot of folks, when they talk about standing up a program, they're like, "Oh, just go to NIST. They have these all these special publications for risk management framework, or or the NICE framework. And there's so many frameworks out there. You could do the PCI, not PCI, but the ISO 27001, etc. There's the European standards. And there's all these frameworks, but like you said, the budgets as a lot of these companies operate, they're not the same as like Fortune 500s or big businesses that are globally already. So then you look at like 100 plus controls and all these sub controls, and it's like it's a sea of madness that maybe the program needs to have like, like let's just do level 1 through 5 right now. We can't go to level 90, 99, but let's, what I will say is if you haven't heard about Australia, they did a thing called Essential 8. And what I like about these little mini, what I call like baby step frameworks is that, hey, we know a lot of businesses can't do RMF. They can't do all these well-established frameworks that takes a lot of time and practice to even build up to it. But here's 8 controls, 8 security controls that if you could do them to whatever level that you can, you'll be more secure than doing nothing. And I know if someone's recommended, there's a couple others that are slipping my mind right now. But have you heard about the Essential 8? And do you think that this is maybe a good approach to pick like a few controls and say, hey, level 1, let's work on just these few 5 to 8, but like essential 8, I think is a good direction.
um, can we have a little break as my dogs are going?
So, what are your thoughts about Australia's Essential 8 as it relates to small to medium businesses? It's just a starting point. Like, hey, here's 8 controls. We feel that if you could do some or all of them, that it's better than starting from zero.
I think it's a great approach. I personally very much like the NIST framework, and I try to base my work on the NIST framework. It's a matter of choice, right? In the end, it's like whatever you feel comfortable with, what you like more. And I personally really like NIST. I think it's very concrete, and it also is very. It allows me to put a grading on things, so we can measure and also design forward.
Okay.
Which is why I do prefer using this. I do think it's good, for small companies that do not have like a budget or the time or whatever to focus on small things.
Mhm.
Because small things better than nothing, right? It's like you mentioned. I personally think this can be a little bit more complete in terms of not only getting like a ground in place, but also forecasting for the future.
Okay. And with that being said, in your business, when you are meeting with prospective clients, and let's say maybe a company you've assessed that they don't really have a large budget and they don't have, staff. There's a lot of things they don't have and they might not be able to get right away. But, could you maybe just like if I was that prospective client, what would be like to say, hey, if you do any 3 things, if I was to leave you with guidance on just 3 things to do for your business, what would those be? And again, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but from your perspective, with the landscape and the environment of businesses in your region, what would be like the top three things? Like, hey, these are no cost to low cost things that will be very impactful for your business.
Oh, low cost things. You mean like maybe configuration of things? I will recommend hardening stuff. Like, if you can disable RDP, for example, right? That would be like a simple thing. If you can disable RDP, if you can segment your network.
Yes.
Um, right? What else? I would say I recommend and I don't want to do how do you say free advertising. So I just want to mention the tool, but there's a tool that you can sign up your email to, and they will give you some um level of let's say analysis on the content, like there's malware or like some phishing
Hmm.
analysis. Why I mentioned this, because this is also something I would like regarding the socioeconomic disparities.
Hmm.
A lot of my clients use Google for Business, but they use the most basic tier, right? Because they're a small business. There's few of them, and some of those security features that are the most useful in order to analyze your phishing and stuff, they only come in the higher tiers,
Yeah.
which it's really it's really problematic for the small client. I know, the filter of fish of malicious stuff from Google works the same, but if you want to have any level of analysis on them, there's no way.
Yeah.
So I usually say just sign up to this. The free version works fine. You don't have to pay a dime, and you will have some level of control and
I love
analysis
that's a great
on
recommendation. I love that.
your phishing. Yeah.
Wow.
So those are like I would say the main things.
Oh yeah, no, no, that was perfect because again, leaving a client, even if they don't sign up with you, leaving them with just some direction. I love that, especially the low cost, no cost recommendation you had there. So thank you for sharing that. That's really, really impactful stuff for a small to medium sized business. This is a question I love to ask all my guests. And again, if we went back like in a time machine, back to the exact day, what I say day one, where you made the decision that you wanted to work in this, field, work with technology, work with, threat and intelligence, threat hunting, just to do the work that you do in cyber. What's that story, if you don't mind sharing with us?
Oh, of course, I don't mind. I actually remember the exact moment it happened, and
Okay.
it's a bit of a silly story. So, for context, I do not have an engineering background. I did later on 1 year and a half of engineering, but I started working. So, well, I actually graduated from translation and interpretation. So, I actually graduated in languages,
Hmm.
essentially. And then I started working. I did some web design in my free time, like while I was growing up. Like there was the blog time, so I
Hmm.
kind of learned my by myself. Just what is this? And I put a zero more and see what happens. So that's how I learned like web design, trial and error, around my teenage years. And when I finished my graduation, I said I really don't want to dedicate my life to translating stuff. And I say, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? I say, oh, I actually enjoy web designing and I never thought of it as a career path. So why don't I start doing that? So I got into the e-commerce platform of one of the major computer vendors in the world. In here, that was here in the Latin American version, right? Here in Argentina. And while I was working there, my coworker had a crush on one of the guys that worked in the building, and she only knew the name. And I said, leave it to me. And with that, I started searching and I found him. And it was just a nickname. And I found him and I found his Facebook, and like very much like a no scene thing. And then in that moment, I said, this is a huge skill. And this is not the first time I do it. And I'm always a friend. All my friends that come to like, search for me for this weird stuff
Hmm.
that I cannot
You're their
find.
open source intelligence person. Yeah.
And I said, like, this is something. this has some practical application. And at the time, another of my coworkers was programming some of our manual tasks on the e-commerce platform, so he can have the machine do it for him. And I was like, I want to learn to do that. So I signed up in my engineering for the engineering degree, and also I did a cybersecurity 1 year diploma. Is like a diploma. Um, and with that, I got hired by Deloitte here, the intelligence team that used to work for Deloitte Global. So, and it was we were kind of the first working with MITRE ATT&CK, and that's how I got into like threat intelligence and malware and IOCs, and here I am.
Wonderful.
That's
Well, we're
how
so
everything
glad that you
started.
took those choices, and this is what you're doing. The industry is better with you in it. Um,
No, thank you.
the Along your journey, though, when you talked about, you had a colleague that you helped do some open source intelligence searching and so forth. But along your journey so far to date, has there been people that either a manager, director, a coworker, colleague, or someone that's helped either mentor, coach, guide you, or even people in the industry that you're like, you know what, they really motivated, inspired me. I learned so much from the things that they put in the world. That the question is really for you to like. It's not a name dropping question. It's more to pay homage to the folks that had an impact and influence on you in your career.
Okay, so I'm gonna mention, I want to say five people,
Okay.
more or less. So first, as Luciano Martins, which was my first boss here, and he is also partner in Deloitte Argentina. So he has been my mentor. He got me into cybersecurity. He teach me all he knew. We talked a lot about intelligence. He also gave me a lot of room to grow within the team,
Yeah.
which was great. Which really was great. So I would mention him. I'm gonna mention also Gabriela, Nicolao, and Ruth Barbasil, which were both my coworkers and managers, which also helped me through everything, and also came like we traveled together. We still um, have a relationship and stuff. Um, I also go for advice to Gabby. Like it's something like I always even if I do some research, I need to show her so she can
Mhm.
give me the okay. That's it's good. And then I'm gonna mention Roberto Rodriguez and Jose Rodriguez, which are um, some of the big names in threat hunting. I'll say, or if not the biggest names in threat hunting. He did a lot of tools. He put a lot of open source stuff, a lot of which what he did I cover in the book among other toolings, but I think his work was really inspiring for me. I think his figure it's incredible in the field of security, everything that he has bring into, and the fact is also he's in the U.S. and he's from the U.S. but he's also from Peru. So I kind of that there's all other Latin figure out there that's making a huge impact in the field and in how we study things now, right? How we understand the field now. I was gonna say Katie Nichols and Alan Pennington, which both were really supported and kind of help us go to, which was one of the greatest experience I would probably say of my life and my career, that I got to go to MITRE to meet the team,
Nice.
um, and speak there in Attack on 2.0. So I kind of I wanna thank them from here and also appreciate them. Um, and I'm sure I'm leaving people out,
Oh,
and it's
as
not.
with anything, I know it's a question that puts a lot of people on the spot. Well, thank you for sharing and paying homage to those people that have had an impact and influence in your career. I love that question because it kind of like, it's like, you know what, without these people, they really mattered, and so thank you for sharing those names with us. You mentioned MITRE and MITRE ATT&CK. I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of great guests from MITRE on the Top Cyber Pro podcast. Some of the highlights is John Baker, Center of Threat Informed Defense. His episode was wonderful. Even there was, I think, Keith Wilson. He's the director of Attack IQ, the academy that teaches people about up to intermediate level about the attack framework as well as the navigator and so forth. So a lot of good training there. So folks, that Attack IQ link will also be in the description below, and as well as a link for the Center for Threat Informed Defense, the CTID. I want to ask you a little bit about, I know you do some educational work and you do some training around blue team operations. So could you maybe tell us a little bit about what is a blue team and what are these operations that you speak of?
Right. So I'm teaching at Echo Party Academy, which is like a academy for hacking that came out from Echo Party itself. And I'm running the specialty specialization.
Okay, yes,
I'm not sure
specialization.
the word. Yeah. Um, for cyber defense essentially. So it's for blue team operations in general. So we cover a little bit of threat intelligence, we cover incident response, we cover threat hunting. We do have some practical lab for the people to work in. We kind of try to we cover the toolings. We kind of try to give the people that does the course a full view of what being a blue teamer could be, right? Even if then you later decide to specialize just in threat intelligence, or then you just decide to specialize in incident response, or if you want to be just a threat hunter, so that kind of up to you. But we do like an overview of all the things. We also give them some background in how the operation systems work, so they are aware of, how even malware can hide and taking advantage of how operation systems work. So that kind of complete. It's kind of complete. It's 10 classes. There's a lot of content that the student needs to do, and then
Mm-hmm.
they have 10 times they can meet with me to ask me questions. And there's a practical lab in which they have to, find traces of an attack and so on.
Well, I really love that you're making time to educate folks into this, the blue team operation. So thank you for investing yourself into students because, it's like that next generation that'll come after us to help fight the good fight, particularly blue team. So for folks that might not be understanding what's a blue team, so there's blue teams, there's red teams, and then there's purple teams. And in the concept of practicing, because think about it, practice makes perfect, or rather, as Archimedes would say, the ancient Greek mathematician, perfect practice makes perfect. So you got to get it perfect, but it's better to do it in a simulated environment to get the practice. Just like a football team practices on the film before the game. So in cybersecurity, you don't want to wait till it's game time and you're actually being attacked and having to look for those indicators of compromise or indicators of attack. You don't want to wait till then to have the team start to work together. And so you do these practices, you do these drills, you do these, virtual, if you will, operations, and then you have the blue team, which are the good guys, the red team, which are simulating the bad guys, and you got a purple team that has information about what both sides do. They're usually the game masters, if you will, or the range masters if you're running a cyber range. So, and there's a lot of information out on the internet about red team, blue teaming, and purple teaming. And so, I do want to talk. The last question I have for the technical discussion part of this is, one of the things in threat hunting and in the past couple of years that we've seen be really sneaky is what's called living off the land attacks. And so this is things, so for folks that haven't heard about this, these are files that are usually easily looked over because they're sometimes named or they act like really benign files that are usually part of an OS build or an update or a patch or an application that often gets underutilized. But these files, they live on these systems and they don't do anything immediately malicious, but then all of a sudden when the perfect storm happens, and I don't want to label it a logic bomb because logic bombs are a little bit different, but living off the land attacks, what has been your perspective, at least for yourself in your region, of the prevalence of these? And do you think that we're going to see more of these type of attacks happen in our future, particularly with AI now helping the bad guys come up with, multiple complex layered attacks?
So the advantage of living off the land tax is that since you're taking advantage of the tools that are already there, the things that are already there, it's harder for someone to see that as a malicious thing. Like
Yep.
if it's a tool that is from the company's operating, then that's expected behavior. Yes, they have been an increase in leaving of the land attacks, and it's I think it's a thing that has not died down. It has been increasing, and it's a trend that's been going on for a while now. And I don't think it's gonna because it's the perfect way to attack people.
It's a perfect weapon, right?
You don't have to deploy anything, just taking advantage of what is there. And quotes, because you might deploy stuff, but taking advantage of what is there is always more useful. You will invest less resources. From an attacker point of view, you have to invest less resources. You are more likely to pass undetected. So yeah, I think it's not something that's gonna die down. It's gonna go more and more.
More.
Um, and sometimes here in the region, it's hard to say. Because there's a lot of big unknowns,
I
right?
know. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of lack of. I'm sure yes, because I don't think we are so far from the 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 trends that are worldwide, right? I do think that the level of access or the complexity needed to carry out the attack might be lower,
Okay. All
but
right.
the techniques are not so different.
Okay. So this is part of the podcast where I like to take a break from the technical discussion because we've talked a good bit about the tech and so forth. So this is what I call my moment of levity, and so these are just rapid fire questions where there's no right or wrong answer. It's just whatever answer comes first to your mind. So if you'll humor me, I'll
Yeah.
hit you with some questions. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. First question. This divides the room. So if you're an IT cyber, this question is going to split the room. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Oh, Star Trek.
Star Trek. Okay. Okay. Which crew of Star Trek is your favorite?
Um, so I really like I sorry, there I saw them so much ago. I can't remember the names.
Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart crew, and then the next one that was
Was it the movies with
with
Chris Pine?
no, where you had Bedoras and it's on the satellite. How's the name? It's
Deep Space
I'm
Nine?
Deep Space Nine. Yeah,
Okay.
those two
Okay.
are
Cisco, Commander Cisco. Okay.
yeah, those two are my
Those
favorite.
two.
But
Patrick
I
Stewart and Commander
think
Cisco. Okay. Next
yeah,
question. Cake or pie?
cake.
What kind of cake?
I This is very Argentinian of me, but I really like vanilla and dulce de leche.
Okay.
Dulce de leche is it's like sugar milk. It's brownish. It's very sweet.
Okay.
It's typical from here.
Do you prefer that cake hot or cold?
Cold.
Cold. Okay. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Oh, huh. It's a hot dog. It's not a
It's
sandwich.
it's not a sandwich. Okay. All right. And then the final question in this round, and this is sometimes, takes people to think a moment, but what has been the most favorite book of all time that you've read? And what was the last book you read?
Okay. So one of my favorite books, it's a Korean book that I
Okay.
got to read through college. There was
Was it translated or do you actually read Korean?
no, it was
Okay.
translated into Spanish, but it's the story of one of the main hero of Korea. And the book is named The Sing of the Sword, at least in Spanish. It was The Sing of the Sword. Just anyone speaking Spanish, is El Canto de la Espada. And it has been one of my favorite reads. Yeah, and which
Okay.
is a very particular because I think it's one of my rarest things that I have in books.
Uh-huh.
Which that was my favorite. Um, then, the last thing I wrote was an Agatha Christie novel. I'm buying a collection because it's like a very nice collection that's in the newspaper kiosk. We have here like kiosk with newspapers and books and stuff. And there's an Agatha Christie collection, so it's been one of hers.
Okay. If you could please share with me those links. And then, folks that are watching, don't pause and hit Google. The links are in the description below. So we'll have the links to those books and everything we've talked about. If there's a link for it, it'll be down below. So I'm going to save everybody the Google searches. So, Valentina, I know your time's very valuable, but I have just a couple more questions, if you'll humor me. One of those questions is I know that, with everything you got going on, running your own business, doing the education work that you do, working on the second edition of your threat intelligence and threat hunting book. You got a lot going on, and plus, like you said, you just moved, and you got a lot of life stuff going on. But with a lot of us cybersecurity professionals, we do sometimes make the time, whether it's our time, energy, or money, to either support nonprofits, volunteer work, charities, etc., and our foundations, etc. So, even if you're not giving of your time, money, or your energy, if it's just something that's near and dear to your heart, this is the question is for you to have the opportunity to shine a light on these wonderful organizations that's doing great work in the world. So, is there any organization you'd like to mention and speak about?
Yes, I there's an organization called Argentina Humana, which helps with feeding people. Right now, there's a lot of hunger in my country. There's also another organization that is women that are victims of sex trafficking, which is Mujeres Víctimas de Trata, which is also another thing I really care about, and I if you can support it, I think they all will take any donations.
Hmm.
And there's also organizations that helps trans people. Um, I will send you the names and links
Yes.
below because there's a couple of them. So I will send you some links so you can post them.
Well, thank you so much for
Those
sharing
are
those
like
with us. Yeah. Yeah, so folks, those links will also be in the description below. If you can give any of your time, energy, or money to support those causes. Again, I love to ask that question because it's just our way to just shine a light, even if it's for a few seconds, on the names of these wonderful organizations doing really wonderful, very impactful work for people around the world. Um, the last one is really the final word. And so, what I allow my guests to do is whatever you're passionate about in cyber or anything, it's your opportunity to take a few minutes and just make a statement. And the time is yours.
Whew. There's a thing I think I have grown passionate about, which is do not burn yourself out for any job, and take care of yourself first. Find the means to become independent, at least to gain some stability for yourself, and live out your best life by putting yourself first.
Wonderful. Well spoken. Thank you so much, Valentina, for giving your time today on the Top Cyber Pro podcast. Look, folks, she's doing amazing work and she's going to continue doing amazing work. So her LinkedIn profile will be below. If she gives me any other links for any blogs, websites, or anything else, they're all going to be down below. Please take a few moments, check out those links, check out the free information and all the other resources as in the system description. I'm sorry, video description. I keep saying system description. I'm too IT focused right now. But again, great things. Got a second edition of her book coming out, so be trying to follow and look out for that as well. So again, Valentina, thank you so much for being on the Top Server Pro podcast.
Thank you.